Welcome, everybody, to Your Ghost Stories. Today, we have an absolutely fascinating guest, and I really can't wait to pick his brains and hear more about what he has to say and dive deeper into the subjects of astral projection, healing, and exorcisms. So, welcome, Alobar Jones. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me today, mate. Look, it's really good to be here. Yeah, you're right. I do have a lot to say on this topic, and I think it's pretty rare. Like most healers of my experience would be medical intuitives, but I took a different, and I have had medical intuitive successes, but my focus has been on mental health, which has led me down the road of exorcism. And I have this one thing that I keep saying, like all mental health issues are caused by demonic interference, all of them. And if you think about it for 15 seconds, these invisible monsters that are in our religious texts, and all religions talk about them, these invisible monsters that mess with our minds might just be the cause of mental health issues. And that's like the big thing that I'm trying to get out there in the world. And, you know, for people who have had very little response from conventional treatment, you should come give me a call. I'm the guy who has the answers that you're looking for.
So, where did it all start for you? Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what led you to become the person that you are today.
I grew up in Melbourne, Australia, and the reason I got into this was alcoholism. I drank like a thirsty fish. I was the youngest member in Alcoholics Anonymous for a while, and they gave me call it a management position or a service position or whatever it is, but they gave me a key role in the charity side, the international charity side of it. Oh, sorry, the city and the province that we're in, like, as a pivotal role. And what it did is it gave me access to all of these other alcoholics. You go to the 12-step meetings, you hear the same things over and over again. Same stories, different details from different people. There's a lot of consistency in what's going on there. We had somebody in the club who had their master's in psychology, and they said the answer to alcoholism is not in psychology. I'll take your word for it. And so I started looking at, and 6 out of the 12 steps talk about the big G, God. And so I started going out and religion shopping, trying to figure out which religion would work best. And so I tried the old school churches, and they were useless. I tried the newer happy clappy churches, and they were full of nice people, but they couldn't help me. I hung out with the Buddhists for a little while, and they have something, but you have to hang out with them for 5 years and do the stillness meditation. And then when you're ready to put on the orange robe, then they'll show you all the funky astral projection stuff. As it turns out, the hippies, they just wanted some money. And so I did one of their astral projection courses, and it paid dividends. It gave back more than any of the other religions did. So then I did another one and another one. I ended up doing 50, like, easily. And, then from what I learned of those arts, I've then use the tools I have to continue research and redevelop exorcism. And the reason why is in the 3rd astral projection course that I did, they just showed us these parasite spirits. They didn't tell us anything about them. They just showed them to us. And they showed us how to scan the human body for them. And so I'd do that, and I saw that I had a bunch. And I'd go to the 12-step meetings, and I'd see everybody else there had a bunch too. And I thought, well, there's a correlation here, because other people don't have them, or at least not so many. And it took me about 4 months to figure out how to get the first one off me. And when I did, about 3 or 4 days later, I'm walking down the street and I go, oh, I feel wonderful. I feel great. Oh, this is how normal people feel all the time. This is how people without problems feel. Right. Okay. this is a big deal. I'm going to follow this up. And then I went, and then I, messed around in that town for a little while, and then moved. And then bought a one-way ticket to India on a spiritual quest to figure out how to beat these guys every time. And I learned that. But there's more than one type, as it turns out.
Wow. What a fascinating journey you must have been on in your life to see all these different cultures and religions, and kind of make your own mind up of what this existence really is. So for the people listening that may not know what astral traveling is, could you explain?
Oh, okay. So your mind can leave your body at any time. Uh, wow. The US, and there's two basic schools of astral projection. One is the healer route, where you work through trauma and pain and your individual personality and comb out the parts that you don't like, so that you can be a better person, you can feel good all the time. The other one is the US Army, which focuses on spying, and they call it remote viewing. And so what happens is you start in the 3D realm, you fly up to the spirit world, the Nargual, the astral planes. There's lots of different names for it. And you fly over to the other location, and you go back down into the 3D, and you look around, and that's remote viewing, and you report back everything you see, and that's the spy capacity of it. For the healers, they start in the 3D, they go up to the astral realms, and then they come down on their own person or the next person to heal their pain. And that's the most common. Those are the two common schools that are around.
So can anybody do this? What learning
Every
or
human
training?
being has every human being has the required anatomy to do it. We all have the apparatus and the tools. It's kind of like reading. 1,000 years ago, if you could read, you were special and blessed, and you must have been born under a fantastic star or something like that. And it's nonsense. Like, now we realize very quickly that everyone can do it, and that there's great benefits when everyone should do it, and there's great benefits when that occurs. And astral projection is the same. And just straight off the bat, it will replace every function that we use for psychology, because it's just a better tool.
So it is something that I've heard about many, many times over the years, but I think I've tried a couple of times, but without success. Maybe I think unconsciously I've done it
Mm-hmm.
where I've been in a dream state and I felt myself kind of floating, and I was aware that I wasn't necessarily dreaming, but and yeah, I could get myself off the floor, but it felt so real. And I could see myself, like first person view, like I am now, but I saw myself lifted off the ground. Is that astral traveling?
Yeah, yeah. Look, when you enter the dream state, you remember it. This is a particular brain wave pattern. You see, like, you have four different brain waves. You have beta, alpha, theta, and delta. And theta brainwave is where hypnosis occurs, and dreaming and astral projection. And beta brainwave is the one we're using now, where we're thinking and talking and analyzing. And if you can get your brain to different parts of your brain to run at those different brain waves, then you're either astral projecting or lucid dreaming.
So, what learning or training does it take to become a successful astral traveler?
Well, there's lots of different trainings. Strangely enough, I do a year-long training. And when people come out of that, depending on how much work they do during the course, they come out as very talented astral projectors. It's basically, I did 50 courses to learn everything, to learn half of what I know. And this course, I designed it as the course I wish someone had shown me right from the very beginning. All the things that I learned over with spending all that money and all that time, I just give it away. Like, it's very, very cheap, and it's probably one of the most comprehensive courses that you'll find.
So where can our listeners find this course if they're interested?
Alobarjones.com. I have an intake in January. I start a new group in January.
So before this call, I did take a look at your website, alobarjones.com, and you make some pretty amazing and bold statements. So you say that you're able to train people to astral travel, like what we are just talking about, or become healers. And you also say that you're able to assist with severely mental ill people and return them back to a healthy state with functioning minds. And lastly, you're able to resolve addiction issues permanently within people you work with.
All right, I'll start with addiction because it's where I got started. It was actually my ambition when I began this entire drama. When I started all of this study and let's just say weirdness, and this is what causes addiction. And I'm going to talk about alcoholism, but the same blueprint applies to everything. So there is a Muslim deity called Al Ghul, not Al Gore, the ex-US presidential candidate, but Al Ghul, Al-Ghul. And where the Muslim and Christian empires met was in Spain, and there his name changed to alcohol, which is the Spanish word for alcohol. And when we say drinking spirits, like, what we're describing is inviting that deity into our body. Like back in the Middle Ages, spirits were a normal conversation piece. They were accepted. Now they're not. But when we're drinking spirits, we're inviting that spirit into our body to make us feel good and make us act weird. Right? This is alcohol. Now, the Muslims hate that deity. They know him and they hate his guts. Right? They call him the god of chaos and destruction and mayhem and fermentation and rot and alcohol. Like, he's not a pleasant guy. And they don't want him in their culture. So that's why you can't get a beer in the Muslim world. It's because of this spirit, because of this deity. Now, I've fought this guy a few times actually, and there's a few YouTubes about it, and I can go into detail. But the relevant part for us is that the general demon has colonels and majors and captains, and the foot soldiers, they inhabit the individual person. And that's where people get their impulse to drink. That's where people lose control around drink. That's where people obsess about drink. Like, literally, the minion of Al Ghul is just tapping them on the shoulder. Hey, mate, how about a beer? Have you thought about having a beer? Wouldn't you like a beer? Isn't that a good idea? No, why aren't you drunk yet? Like, and they just drink, and like it's like a constant drone in the mind, and it becomes an obsession. And that's how we know addiction. Now, it took me years to figure. It took me at least a decade to figure that one out. But once you clear Al Ghul out of an alcoholic, their desire for booze disappears. It just dissipates. This is the same mechanism for marijuana or heroin or ice or any of those, or crystal meth or whatever it is that's going around these days. It's just a matter of me astral projecting into that person and finding these nefarious characters and exterminating them. Once they're exterminated, then you have a chance at the person what's the word I'm looking for? Becoming normal or normalizing. Because, like with rehabs, what happens is the person pushes themselves towards clean, and then as soon as they get out, the monster pushes them straight back into the mess, right? And so with addiction, these demons also leave a whole lot of garbage around. a whole lot of garbage thoughts, a whole lot of garbage ideas, and it takes time to sweep them all up and dissolve them. But it's a process, and I have a team who's devoted to it.
So, as somebody myself who has suffered from addiction for around
Mm-hmm.
15 years, I was a heavy marijuana user. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but luckily, I had the willpower to and found it within myself to stop. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's now been a good over a year, I'd say,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel great for it, and I feel so much more human, so much more alive. But would you
Mm.
say this spirit or this demon, whatever you'd like to call it, would you say it's still inside me? Because of course I still get the urge, I still think about it.
Yeah, look, and he's not leaving. And I'll tell he's not leaving for anything. Like if he goes back to his masters and say, "Oh, sorry, this guy got clean. I like, there's nothing I could do," they'll kill him. He is a slave, and he is being driven to push you into weed. And I'll tell a story from Alcoholics Anonymous, where we had a guy there who was sober for 23 years continuously, and then one day he, you know, 23 years of winning the daily battle against his demon. Then one day it beat him, and he found himself at exactly the place he was the day he stopped drinking, which is drinking beer out the front of the supermarket, picking fights with people. He's in his 60s and he's doing this. Just going, like, it's total insanity, but the demon was that patient. It was that patient. Right.
So
So that's my answer to your question. Is it still there? Well, it definitely was for that guy.
is this a battle against good and evil?
Yeah, that's where I play. That's my job. It's I do this for individuals, but I also have we have an American team, an Australian team, and a European team who join together and fly out and beat these guys up.
Are you
We're
able
very good at
to
what we do.
are you able to give an example of what you do to when you astral travel and visit these people in this fifth dimension or dream state? What are the
Mhm.
actions you take here to rid of these demons?
Well, you'll laugh when I tell you this one, right? About 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago now, a friend of mine, she does earthwork. So she goes and changes the energy in the land. It's a very, very challenging and high level job. But she flew, her third attempt, she flew over to Ireland. She was stopped twice. And on the third time, she flew to Ireland to rehabilitate Irish sovereignty. So she went to the tomb of the king, of the first king of Ireland. She went there and somebody poisoned her. She went to hospital. The ceremony was not completed. And so she and I flew back there together and went back to the tomb of the first king of Ireland, which is Irish sovereignty. And we removed Excalibur, the astral object of Excalibur, from the tomb and returned it to England. So the influence on Irish independence, the English part of it was returned to England. And then within a week, there's riots in Dublin. That's the power of earthwork. That's the power of doing our job well. It's not easy at all.
Alba, I find this stuff absolutely fascinating, and I have absolutely no reason to disbelieve you. But I'm sure some people listening may think that this is just way too kooky and out there. What would you say to those people?
I'd say the science, as it stands right now, is this. All of the best research, all of the leading universities in the US that are working in psychology are all studying meditation. All of them. If anyone who's trying to get anywhere with improving people's minds, they're researching meditation. The old school Freudian is dead or as good as dead. Now, I talk about demons and other wild, messed up concepts. And, you know, the next question that a skeptic would ask is, where is the science? And I would ask the same question. You see, there is not a single paper published academically anywhere about demons. Science has no comment on it. It doesn't talk about it. But all of the major religions do. And so in English, in Christianity, we call them demons. In Hebrew, they're called Ouija, where we get the word Ouija board. In Islam, they're called jinn or genies. Read Aladdin's lamp is a story. And you can see different cultures have different attitudes. You know, in Christianity, they say never make a deal with the devil, or never make a deal with a jinn. But Aladdin, he did, and he had a wild adventure, but it ended up biting him in the back. So yeah, you can deal with a jinn, but there's a big price to pay. And the Hindus call them Butpret, the Chinese religions call them Mogwai. Now, each of them describe them as an invisible monster who messes with people's minds. In its most simplest form, they can all agree on that definition. And, you know, for anyone who says this is too wild, I'll say, well, why should we listen to you? In all likelihood, you've done zero study, you've spent zero time investigating this. And so, like, what do you know? What do you bring it to the party? Do you just go, oh, I don't like that idea? Well, I don't care. Like, you know, leave it to the experts. Thank you very much.
Great answer. And I think some
Yeah.
people like to bury their head in the sand because, you know, the saying ignorance is bliss.
Oh, look, yeah, and it's not our problem. Theirs.
You're clearly well studied on this subject. So yeah, I mean, if I had to trust someone on this, I'm sure it'd be you.
I suspect I suspect that I'm a world leader. I suspect this because I've only I only know two other professional exorcists. One of them I trained, and the other one, when he came on our astral projection group flights, he saw what we were doing and he ran away. We didn't see him again. So, you know, if I'm not the best in the world, then I'm probably top 10. And I don't know, and it sounds like an ego trip, but I'm really dying to meet some other people who do this. I really am.
So why do you think that the Western world that we live in is so out of touch with our spiritual side?
It's funny because when I went to investigate the churches, you know, they said, oh, so I said to them, what's your program? What do you do here? What's your course of training? Like, what do you want people to do? And it was a one-step answer to go find Jesus. I go, cool. All right. I want a mentor. I want books to read. I want to know the difference between me just talking to the wind and me talking to Jesus. I really want to know that. And nobody had ever asked them that question before. Like, they didn't know how to answer it. They were totally lost with it. It was really weird. Like, so I think and religions offer two things. They offer social context and they offer prayer life. And I think the focus has gone away from prayer life. But, you know, that's what I see because I'm not really deep in any religion. So I don't really know. This might be happening, but prayer and meditation are the key technologies. And I say technologies, not tongue in cheek at all. The key technologies that are in the middle of being suppressed, you know. You know, in the Middle Ages, they went on the witch hunts and killed all the witches, and then they killed the heretics, which were the Catholic magicians who also learned hedge magic. So the witches learned druidism and hedge magic and nature magic, and then so they killed all of them so that they don't have to compete. They absorbed midwinter into the midwinter festival into Christmas. They did a whole bunch of things like that. And then they killed the heretics, the people who knew both church magic and Druidism. And then they tried to destroy the Knights Templar and failed, which is actually a school of witchcraft. It's actually a demonic school of witchcraft. If you go to a Masonic lodge, if you learn Freemasonry, you're learning demonic magic. It's really that simple.
And this is some stuff that I've researched myself over the last 10 years, and it's very prevalent in Western world and mainstream society, Hollywood, all those kind of places. And I personally, I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that evil rules currently.
Look, I'll spend a bit of time talking about Freemasonic history. Like, they were the Knights Templar, and then in 1309, the Pope put out they were very good at banking. They made their money in sheep and working marginal land that nobody wanted. And they invented a kind of banking, or a proto-banking. And then in 1309, the Pope sent out an order through all of Christendom to kill all of the Knights Templar. Now, strangely enough, an order that goes Europe-wide or Christendom-wide, they heard about it. And about, we estimate 2/3 of them ran away to Switzerland. They changed their name to the Freemasons and began the cornerstone of Swiss banking. And the Knights Templar became somebody when, I think it was 9, I'm pretty sure it was 9, priests or warrior priests went to Jerusalem and found Abraham's tomb. Abraham? This is old stuff. I haven't looked at this stuff for a long time. Yeah. King Solomon's tomb. And they spent about 10 years studying it, and then they wrote letters back to Europe. And and they called themselves, their little group of warrior priests, the Knights Templar. The next 10 initiates to their temple were the Duke of this place, the Earl of that place, the Baron of here, the King of there, all power players in Europe, all these really big names. And so they found some magical secrets there, but they also found a technological secret, which is kind of interesting. Would you like to hear what the technological secret was that they brought back?
What is the secrets of the universe?
No, this is why they called themselves the Masons. The secret that they brought back, you know what it was?
Go for it.
It was a heavy weight on a piece of string. This is called a plumb bob. And you use it to make sure that you can build walls perfectly vertically straight. Because when you hold that string down, you get a perfectly straight vertical line. Gravity makes it perfectly vertical. And then you can guide the wall to go perfectly straight. And when you can do that, then you can build these immense cathedrals, this incredible architecture is possible. And that's one of the reasons they became famous. That's one of their steps to power. It's the technology they brought back, the public technology that they brought back from King Solomon's tomb. Yeah. So, but those guys are still around and they're still playing their games. And I think that world politics right now is a game of infiltration, because you have the Freemasons who've infiltrated everything. There's one, I think it's once you get to 20 or 21, 20 or 21st of 33 ranks, that you have to make an oath to cover up the crimes of your fellow Masons, right? And so what this meant is that they did a heavy recruiting drive in the courts and in police. And so they've corrupted the judicial system there. They've infiltrated the judicial system and politics and business and you name it. They've been around for a very long time. But infiltration is also set up, like Klaus Schwab, he has his group called the Young Global Leaders and Shapers. his inner circle includes the leader of France, Macron, the leader of England, the Indian fella, Jacinta Ardern is one, the the leader of Victoria, the worst province to be in Australia during the pandemic. Dan Andrews is one of them.
So
And,
these are the people that are talking about the Great Reset, right?
these are the guys who are pushing the agenda of the Great Reset the hardest, because
Yeah.
this is Klaus Schwab's baby.
And
It's currently dead in the water. Like,
okay, that's good to
these
know.
guys these guys have not been arrested. But you also had a list that got published of 200,000 agents of the Chinese spy service who, because, I don't know where you're from, but my family's been in Australia for a few generations and we consider ourselves Australian. This is not how it works with the Chinese. The Chinese will be fourth generation locals and still be loyal to China. And so there's a list of 200,000 heads of industry and politics and government who are on the list of paid staff for the Chinese government, paid informants for the Chinese government. Like, nowadays, the key to the whole game is infiltration.
And it's kind of happened right before our eyes. I remember 15 years ago, 10, 15 years
Yep.
ago, having a conversation similar to this with a friend, and I was so naive to everything. I had no idea. And this friend's the one that opened my eyes and to what's going on in the world. And yeah, it's just fascinating to see over the last 10 years, everything that he said is coming into fruition. What did they call it? It wasn't the Great Reset 10 years ago. It was called something else. Like in the conspiracy
Well,
circles, it was known as, I can't remember off the top of my head.
no,
Um,
no, we have been expecting this for quite some time. It's had a few different names, but like, they just want a prison planet. They just want a prison planet. If you doubt this, I want you to Google the line, which is something they're building in Saudi Arabia. And it's a prison for 500 million people.
hmm.
They want the entire remaining population of humanity to go and live in the line. Check it out. Check it out. It's fascinating.
What is it? What do these people get out of this? What they're trying to achieve?
Uh,
Are they fighting a battle for evil?
there's a galactic politics issue here, right? So, and I'm not sure if the ghost stories people are really into a galactic politics lecture, but I do have a YouTube on it called The Absolute Solution. So, look me up and figure out why things are going this way. And I would suggest to you that the demonic forces are an invasion force for Earth. And you can go back to that story where Lucifer was cast out of heaven and he was sent to Earth. I think that's what they're describing there is the landing ship that he showed up on. Whatever happened to that?
I'll definitely be checking your video out.
Yeah.
Alobar, to me, you seem like such a normal guy. You're a dad, a partner, a son. What is it about you that, what is it that allows you to harness all of this knowledge and power? And why are you fighting against this force?
Um, no, I'm not special. Like I said, like, I used to be a construction guy who drank like a fish. There's nothing special going on there. So anyone can do it. What else do I want to say? Most of the people who do my job are total space cadets, without being funny about it. And God bless them. There's a lot of them, but if you do this training, the risk of becoming a space cadet is quite high. And the trick to it is to stay grounded, to stay practical, to stay in the real. Don't forget that our intelligence is primarily in the 3D. We're primarily in the world that we know. The other world that we visit, may or may not be more valid, or it may or may not be more important, or may or whatever you want to say about it. But the fact of the matter is that you have 2 arms and 2 legs, and you need to look after yourself. And so that's what I recommend. And in mystic circles, you say, stay grounded. Keep it real, folks. Keep it real.
Moving.
Hang on. I will say one more thing, though. I think the thing that allowed me to get somewhere with this is honesty. Incredible honesty, ridiculous honesty. And it's to do with, if you tell a lie and you even convince yourself of the lie, then you're lost. You know, if you can lie to yourself, if you can mislead yourself, for whatever reason you might want to do that, then you're a lost cause. Your mind has a self-created limitation. You're going to be reacting to situations that aren't real. You're going to be pushing at things that don't make sense. Yeah, honesty, honesty, honesty. I can't say that word enough.
Your honesty, it really does shine through, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, your words are really going to open their eyes.
Oh,
And
shucks.
moving on to mental health, as somebody who suffers from anxiety and depression from time to time, what spiritual practices can I put into place to ensure a better future and, improved general mental health?
Well, how much meditation are you doing?
So back in the COVID times, I was quite strict and I was doing a minimum of around 45 minutes a day, and I was in a very good place. But since, we spoke at the beginning of the call, I've got a child, I'm self-employed, I've got a business to run, and so I've
Mm-hmm.
been slacking massively. But at the beginning of this week, a couple of days ago, I said to myself, right, that's it. I'm gonna every single day without fail meditate for at least,
Well,
10, 20 minutes.
everything gets better with meditation. Everything gets better with meditation. And meditation means as many things as the word exercise. There's as many different styles and things methods to employ as the word exercise. It's really, really straightforward. And had an ex-student who was meditating rigorously, and her career was really launching, And then I lost track of her, and then about 6 months later, I bumped into her, and she said, "My life's not moving forward in the way I want it to. What's going on?" I go, "How much meditation are you doing?" She goes, "None." I go, "Well, there's your answer." Right? Meditation is where you get out of your own way, where you learn to be more, where you become a better person. And here's a secret that the CEOs and the very, very top performing individuals in every field, if they don't meditate real hard themselves, then they definitely have someone like me, which is a coach, behind them to make sure that their success, that they keep increasing in success and increasing in capacity and increasing in clear thought and increasing in possibility, because that's one of the things that meditation offers.
So for somebody
Anxiety
starting,
and those things will square away your anxiety and depression for as long as you do them.
so meditation for somebody that's never tried it is a very weird concept. Just sitting in a quiet, potentially dark room, just alone with your thoughts, or trying not to think, or just alone with your breath. Um, where would you suggest somebody that's never tried it, but is interested? What would you suggest
Okay.
they do? Where would they go?
Oh, look, stillness meditations and breath meditations are everywhere. And they bear fruit. I remember, I would go to this thing on a Tuesday afternoon with a Buddhist monk, and he would teach us this breath meditation. And he said the trick is to not think a single thought for 7 breaths, right? And I couldn't do it. I think it was a couple of months before I succeeded in doing 7 breaths in a row without thinking a whole thought, right? And that week I had an attack of memory. Like literally all of the things, I remembered hundreds and hundreds of things that I had forgotten, hundreds and hundreds of situations. And I like, my memory was just reliving all of these places I'd been and things I'd done and people I'd talked to, only stimulated by not thinking for 7 breaths in a row. And so it unlocks your mind, it unlocks your potential. And I'll go a step further, right? Is if you're physically underperforming, then you know you got to go to the gym, right? If you're mentally underperforming, then you might want to read a few books and get some new ideas, do a bit of study, watch some YouTubes, do a short course on the thing you want to learn. Emotionally, if you want to be emotionally stronger, meditation is the answer.
Well, there you have it, folks. And somebody that as I said, I spent a few years meditating rigorously. It absolutely transforms your life. I said to myself, I worked plenty of jobs that I hated over the years, and I said to myself, right, I'm a musician now full time, and I said to myself
Cool.
a few years ago, right, I'm going to do what I love, and within the space of 8 months, and during that time, during that 8 months, I was meditating, I was exercising. So I was looking after my body, looking after my mind. And in such a short space of time, I completely transformed my life. And now I get to do what I love every single day. And I get hobbies like this, talking to fascinating people like you. You know, it's late at night here, but I don't have to get up for a job tomorrow morning. I can just sit and have this amazing conversation with you. And I do put that down to meditating. I think that played a massive, massive part in me becoming who I am today. And you've really inspired me. So I'm gonna get back into good habits and make sure it's a
Yeah,
daily routine. And I hope
yeah,
people
do
listening
it.
do too.
Oh, look, the advice I keep getting asked for, people will ask me for advice, and the advice I keep giving go, like, oh, you've got problems? Did you meditate on them? Well, try that and get back to me, and I don't hear from them again. It's pretty straightforward.
But even if somebody's not spiritual or thinks everything that we've been talking about is kooky and weird, I've got lots of friends that have no interest in what we're talking about, but they meditate because they just know how great it is for their mental health.
Yeah, try it. Yeah, like in all seriousness,
What
like
have
if
you,
you're not doing it, go and have a new life experience and test what we're talking about. Be scientific about it. Find out
you
if it does what we say it does.
you have absolutely nothing to lose other than potentially a little bit of time. But what's that time going to be spent doing otherwise? Sitting
Oh
watching
yeah,
TV,
so you're
drinking
just
a beer,
yeah,
or
totally. You're going to be one episode behind in Netflix. Yeah, right. Big deal. So
you can just catch up after the meditation.
bingo. Yeah. So
Am I right in saying you are also an exorcist? So, in what sense are you an exorcist? Please tell us a little bit more about this and how it goes hand in hand with everything else we've been talking
yeah,
about.
good question. Yeah. Um. So in after studying demon kind for 15 years, I've come to the conclusion that there are 11 different body systems that demons like to inhabit. Or sorry, 11 different non-physical body systems that they inhabit. And when they live there, they are parasitic and they literally take your life force away. Uh, I've spent years also figuring out how to get them out because it's it's a free lunch for them to live there, and they don't want, and they've worked very hard to get there, and they don't want to be anywhere else, nor is it even safe for them to go anywhere else. So them inhabiting you is their singular choice, and they have to manipulate people's minds in order to eat. So I've taken a long time figuring out which body systems they inhabit and how to remove them from those body systems. And the results are a clarity of mind, a singularness of will, not not about being torn between different ideals, but something where you know who you are, you know what you're doing, you know what you want, you know how to get there, and you know what your next step is. Which if you've got more than one mind living in you, it's an amazing feeling to have that singularity instead of having all of these different horses pulling the cart in different directions.
We all know
It's
somebody that's sorry.
Well, I also have a YouTube called Exorcism Before, During, and After. The only thing that's different about that particular session was that she let me record and publish it. That's the only thing that's different about it. So see what she looks like on the day that we're doing it. See us talk to the demons and see what sort of conversations we have, because they'll talk straight out of her mouth. I've developed a technique where they'll do to make them do that. And so we converse with them. And also, you'll see what happens because we get on the phone 2 weeks later and you'll see what she's like then. And she spends 40 minutes just waxing lyrical about how much better she feels in all of the different ways she feels. But, check it out because it's worth your time.
So it doesn't sound like, from watching films like The Exorcist, it doesn't sound like what you put these people through is anywhere near on a level, say, what a Catholic priest would do.
Well, okay. So the movie The Exorcist was published in 1973. And it was in a reaction to John Paul II becoming the Pope in 1972, because one of the first things he did was he dissolved the exorcist unit, the exorcist order of monks. He disbanded them. And so they made that movie of a case that they handled. And the point of the movie is, hey, look, this sort of thing's happening out there. This is why we need exorcists, right? And I think it's only in the last couple of years that exorcist order has been reinstated. But when you watch the movie, right, they have a girl who's clearly possessed, and how do they resolve that? The priest invites the demon into his body and then jumps out the window and kills himself, right? That's how they resolve it. That's not professional. That's not sustainable. That's not a way to do anything. Right? That's not how it should be done. Those guys are bunglers. Just as simply as I can say it. Yeah.
So could you talk a little bit more about the process that you take? So is it all verbal?
No. It's some of my clients are drug addicts, and you couldn't get them to agree to anything. Is the sky blue? If these are the kind of guys, if you ask them to move a little bit to the left, the first thing they'll do is move to the right. So getting them to cooperate in this is a non-event, an absolute non-event. So what the parents usually hire me to do is to do it without their knowledge. And so I'll fly into this person and go Rambo on them and sort them out that way. Now the first thing that people ask me is that spiritually legal to go and interfere with somebody? And in that case, firstly, you're defending the demon's right to manipulate people. And secondly, just like any other medical process, when a person is not mature enough to look after themselves, then their guardian is able to make that decision for them. In this case, if they're on a lot of drugs, it's their parents who are footing the bill. It's their parents who are looking after them. And so their choice is what it takes. So their word is literally spiritual law. And what happens is I will go in and start demolishing all of the influence they have on that individual through each of the different levels, slowly but surely, pulling them apart one by one, pulling apart their infrastructure, killing their personnel, and rehabilitating the original non-physical body systems to their full health, which takes a lot of time. the what makes it even a little bit trickier is that those guys, you know how I talked about the foot soldiers and then the upper ranks? If the upper ranks lose somebody as lucrative as a drug addict, then what happens is they often send another force to reclaim the territory. And I say that in inverted commas because they regard a human being as a field that they can harvest. And if they lose a very profitable one, they quite often send another force back to reclaim it, which is another battle that I've got to fight. But you know, none of this is what I do all day, every day. This is like this is what I do all the time. So, you know, and a friend of mine joked, he said, "Oh, you're out killing demons before breakfast." And I go, "Yeah, pretty much every day." Like, okay, that's what I'm doing, yeah. But I hadn't thought of it that way. But this is just another day at the office, and although it's an unknown, although it's a spooky and scary thing, there are people who've devoted their life's work to it, and there are professionals in the field who are indestructible.
For somebody that is willing to be exercised, is it a pain-free experience, or can
Yeah.
it be physically and mentally taxing on their body and mind?
Oh yeah, well, look, if you do it the Christian way, like where you hold a cross at someone and shout, the power of Christ compels you, or whatever you say, however they say it, like it's going to be painful. Like, you know, you're going to have people convulsing on the bed, but without being funny about it, I have developed the skills to go straight for the jugular. It's not combat. It's just their instant death. This is how I've done so many hours of astral combat that this is where I'm at with it now.
So how does that look for you in a first person view? How do you enter this person's mind, body, spirit, and what do you see physically in
I'll come and
front
do
of you?
one of my trainings, and then it won't be an abstract concept. Come do one of my trainings because, like, seriously, like, be a wizard. It's awesome. Of all the things you wanted to be as a kid, come and be a wizard. That's basically where the training will take you. Right? And you know, the more wizards there are, the more white wizards there are in the world, the better this place will be.
You've got me intrigued.
Yeah, I hope so.
So, Alba, you've massively opened my eyes. You've inspired me, and I really hope. I mean, I'm confident that you've inspired a lot of people listening at home as well. And I personally can't thank you enough for what you are doing for humanity. And I really believe the world needs more people like you. So please keep being you, keep spreading more goodness, love, positivity into this world. You've probably been the most fascinating person I've ever had the chance to chat with in my life. And yeah, I can't thank you enough for your time
Oh,
and for joining us on the podcast. And
that's quite a compliment. Thanks, mate. Thanks, mate. Look, you just invite me back, and I promise I'll say some more interesting things. Uh,
I'll have you back any day of the
it's been
week.
fun. It has been fun, and it's been really good talking to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really great to meet you. And yeah,
All right.
thanks again for joining us. Hope you have a
Yeah.
great evening.
If you want to find out more about me, look me up on YouTube as Alobar Jones, which my name's down in the corner there, or alobarjones.com. But otherwise, to everyone, may the force be with you. Good night.